Hi, everybody. Today I thought I would start a live stream, which would have happened a much earlier time, but the problem is that obviously the subject matter is quite important. So the subject matter is the art of psychic and spiritual warfare. And it's about how to get through the psychic attacks and things that come to you. Intra, extra, and terrestrial warfare, things like that, and how to counter them, and the ability to detect intentions and motivate and motives of others and people and things. It's more or less related to how sensitive you actually can become during these attacks and pre, so that you're able to protect yourself. And there's a reason why I chose to go live, because it's always good to change your your habits, to behave in certain ways. Of course, it's also open for those that come along, and feel free to do so if you wish to ask me questions or just to sit with me in this chat, in this space. And I want to talk about the ability to detect these things and to be able to understand how to better yourself, protect yourself, and how do we actually get to that level. But I'm not going to teach you. I'm not going to do this as a lecture. This is more or less just a discussion, a share of thoughts and ideas, and to talk about it in a very comfortable manner, because that is normally how we counter these type of things as well. It really is about how comfortable you are. If you find that this work has benefited you in some way, just like, share, and subscribe if you want to. It's all good for spreading the news, spreading the information and the truths. And so basically, I want to start off by saying that all forms of psychic energy is based on signals or frequencies. Often you've heard me talk about frequencies, and yes, we are in a frequency war. And this includes psychic telepathic transferences from intra-dimensional entities that exist in a realm that is unseen to you with your physical eyes, with your natural eyes, as well as entities and elements and people that exist within the same realm as you. So essentially, you're able to experience, if you're able to experience a form of psychic transference or energy with yourself, within yourself, and with others around you, you're able to also then be mindful that there will be others that may be around you that would pick up on you as well. Even if you don't see them, they will become aware of you. And so really it's about fine-tuning the dimension, or your instincts, your gut feelings, your intuitions and premonitions, and chalk it down as your experience, because that is really what it is. That's based on the internal, let's call it the guidance system. So basically, the bottom line is that a vast expanse of human spirit and the development of the psyche is undocumented and will always be undocumented, because there's a part of human nature that is not um, detectable. It is also not measured. It is that spontaneous part of you, which I often call the spirit, that is what determines you to be who you are. Now, there are a few things that you can do, but I don't want to, present a quick fix 10-step thing so that you will learn how to become a better psychic ninja. That's definitely not the case. What I am referring to is the essential inner will, or the spirit dynamic within you, within your conscious form, your heart energy, not the physical pump station, but the vortex of the identity of who you are, or as they say, the well, they often refer to it as the hall of a mentee, but I would rather just keep away from giving it descriptive names. It's just the vortex or the power source that operates from within you. And so, where are we with this? Where do we go with the knowledge that we have within ourselves? Aside from learning to build certain things within the self, it is also important that we become aware that we are able to expand on our consciousness and subconsciousness. In other words, the more familiar you become with yourself, the stronger you are able to experience the transference or the projections or the intentions or the motives of people. I've been able to sense presence, from books or from things. It is called psychometry, physical things, but it's also on a spiritual level where you're able to sense when people think of you. And so those are the basic foundations or the basic functions or the basic elements that you have within yourself that determines where you are. And so what have you done with your experiences? Where have you accumulated your experiences where you're completely aware of these things? In a sense, you'll be able to understand that it is the process in which you progress forward that determines how you utilize your experiences. It is also your experience that determines or um, gives you the reason to be unique, to be completely individual in your existence. So, in other words, that is the untamed part of you or the uncontrolled aspect of you within who you are. So, how do we how do we understand what is psychic, what is a psychic attack? This body of work would be basically just an overall discussion of what psychic attacks are, but I have highlighted a few points here and there from my own notes where I can just give you some examples. Basically, psychic attack is when you are in a position where you feel uncomfortable, where it changes your physical dynamics, you feel pain, you would feel things of a greater nature that seem to be bizarre in your surroundings. Sometimes you may feel that you are experiencing conscious interference, or there is a vagueness or a fuzziness inside of your mind where you are unable to really track through the process or the progress of your being, of your well-being. So if you feel uncomfortable and you don't feel well, then and it comes out of nowhere because you got up in the morning and you were fine, and within a few hours you suddenly felt not so fine. Obviously, within reason, within logical understanding, you'll understand that could you experience a type of psychic attack. Now, how do we experience a psychic attack? You experience a psychic attack through internal frequency awareness of something that is outside of you, which takes us to the next point of explaining that the world or the realm in which you exist is essentially based on spirit or psyche. So, no matter how you look at it, the material realm has its foundation from intention and from the internal psyche perspective. So nothing can essentially exist or happen or develop if there's no intention or there's no psyche or psychic or spirit interaction with the idea of something that has to take place. So again, it points out very clearly to you that your existence within this realm is not basically a material existence. I mean, though you exist in a material place or position, it doesn't mean that you are then limited by the material existence as it stands. I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. So, essentially, the realm in which you function in the physical is always determined or interpreted on a psychic level or on a spiritual level or a conscious level or a soul level. In other words, there is an internal dynamic that takes place at all times. Now, the psychic attack itself is operating from the same perspective, the same principle, where it uses the internal intention from who the person is or the attacker is by redirecting the intention to that specific person or target. Groups of people can be attacked just purely by being in the presence of that group of people and using and manipulating the circumstances of the belief systems of the surroundings of those people that are in that group area. It's easier to do it when you're there, when you're in that vicinity. How do the other malevolent forces or the Ministry of Magic do it? Is by just simply manipulating the material realm around that group of people, for instance, constantly driving fear propaganda through mainstream. That is a form of psychic attack. That is an attack that hits you on a fear level or a basic existence, a basic living existence position. If you are unable to deal with the psychic attack itself, then you are unable to counter it. But it is possible to counter it, and it is possible to defend yourself. Now, I need to emphasize to you that it was so the psyche and the spirit was so important that to Hitler, that when he started with his campaigning to control countries, to control resources during those ages, and it's not just him, there are many others that have done the same, Genghis Khan and so many others, they would go to the place of spiritual worship and take control of that area first before they would control anything else, because they realized that everything exists with the awareness of spirit first before material. And so no matter how you look at it, in whatever way you observe the craft that is created or used, the ritual that is used, esoterica, any type of ritual, those that create the ritual are the ones that are usually focused on the intention of what they want the target to experience. So again, it takes you back to the awareness that it is an internal element. It is an internal experience that you will be experiencing. And based on that, you must become aware by now that it is based on the inner spiritual intentions that are set in place. So no matter what sort of witchcraft, like I said, that's done, it really makes no difference. It's really the intention behind it that actually creates the attack in the first place. And so at all times, it's vital to be mindful that psychic attacks can at any time happen and during any time of the day, night, or event or experiences. I'm not referring to grand scale, attacks that happen on unsuspected people, like, for example, where you have to literally fight or flight to protect yourself or defend yourself. I'm talking about the psyche and the spirit itself, in that way. I am going to say this, though, that the stronger your psyche is, the stronger your spirit is, the stronger your internal connection is within, the greater the forces that try to drive you or equalize you. In other words, it can try and drown you out, such as what was happening during interviews with people, where there's an entity or in essence intentions that come in through people, where people's, let's call it what it is, your vortex is being hijacked and used to project energy into a thing, because those psychic attacks don't just float through the air and come to you. They come through people's energy to go to you. So if your energy is susceptible to a particular psychic attack, then your energy can be used against you as well. And that's just how that operates, how that functions. And so basically, random attacks that happen on a greater scale when it feels like when it feels like the realm is actually against you, does happen. It just depends on how unique you are in terms of your existence. In an actual fact, it really is some sort of manipulation within the consciousness itself, the internal aspect of the self, that really determines how susceptible you are. But let me reiterate and say this: any person can be attacked at any random time. Like I always say, anything can actually be hacked. So it's not so much that it would be it's because you are feeble minded, or you're weak in your faith, or you're weak in this, or that you're this way or that way inclined, that you are more susceptible to an attack. You have to be logical about this. The way that it develops is, if there's an enormous amount of energy used while in the process of doing something specific, you can draw attention, and others don't like that. And they will then step in to try and control the situation around you, or control you to such a point where it can literally render you in a state of absolute uh, physical injury. Okay. But it always comes through the mind. If there is, so basically, I'm addressing fear. If you have fear, you need to understand fear as it is something that is the basic fundamental existence of all human life. Fear is, if plants grow lush, they do not appear as if they're in fear. But if a plant is in fear, or experiences a state of something that it affects it on a mortality level, they will produce seeds. And that is basically how they make sure that they foresee their future. So fear, to its very basic root, is about the fear of mortality, or the worry that, let's call it, afraid of dying, afraid of disconnecting from this realm. And that fear is something that can actually find itself in all places within your consciousness, within your life, within your experiences. If you are unable to deal with that unfounded fear, you would need to do some serious homework internally. The way to do that is, as I said, will have to visit yourself, go into yourself and visit yourself, follow the process of thinking and finding out who you are. Controlling and understanding the fear of dying is probably the biggest fear, trump card in the world, for the population of the planet, of the realm, of the planchette. And basically, the energy that people release from themselves when they are in state of fear, obviously adrenaline and all of those things, do create a frequency or a signature that can be manipulated. And it can be kept constantly manipulated, so that people will keep on generating that fear, that frequency, so that it can become, because everything is then heightened. It almost comes to the point where it becomes manic or mania, which is what we're experiencing currently in this realm right now. There is a great deal of mania taking place. A lot of people that are bringing out a lot of information that is not necessarily healthy for any person that would listen to it, but it's people that are afraid of changes, of things, of certain events that take place. again, let me just say this, I'm not negating that if you're living in a situation or circumstances where you are concerned that there could be intruders that could come around at any time, because that is just what it is based on that experience, based on that realm dynamics itself. So I'm not speaking about that, I'm speaking about what is internally within you, and if you are able to deal with that. Now, just because, let's say, let me use myself as an example. I experienced a psychic attack of a tremendous proportions because I did an interview a while ago, and the energy that was there was working rapidly on either anger and fear. Unfounded anger is the same as unfounded fear. It's the same frequency of energy. And those that had sent out that attack to me basically were afraid of what I was saying in the interview. And that is how it came to me. It came to me while I was aware of it coming to me, so it didn't catch me off guard. However, cowards do have a tendency to do things from behind. And unfortunately, I was caught off guard for perhaps a fraction of my time, and I experienced that attack. But nonetheless, I did manage to recover from it. And the way that I did it was to keep having to focus on my internal well being of who I am, doing things that would generate happiness within myself, as much as it felt like I was wanting to basically remove myself out of society in a way, because that is what the intention was, that I must just remove myself out of society because I'm seen as a menace to society. I'd rather just be a menace, um, and just continue being a menace in that way. I do want to laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny at the time. Now, the elements that are used to attack us are, for instance, the capacity and the power of which can be manipulated. For example, your psychic resonance that comes from you, which is determined by how you think and feel and operate. So again, let me say this again, that which is used to create the attack on you is, never mind if they've done rituals and all kinds of crafts and things, it doesn't matter what they've done, whether they've done remote view attacking or any of that sort of thing. Um, your resonance is what is the most tangible to them. Yeah, anger is quite something that is used as well. Anger is as insane. It does the same thing to the heart rate and the adrenaline as fear. Very much so. And so, how do we recognize if we've been attacked? Well, you'll know if you've been attacked. You'll also know if you're experiencing continuous attack, ongoing, if you're in circumstances that are different and you suddenly feel better or you feel bad, you feel worse or you feel better. I think what sometimes what people seek from the way things operate is they want to have it like extremely, they want to have it like super soldier type drama, adrenaline, because I think the general populations of the world um, are perhaps adrenaline starved because of the continuous fear drive in people generally. So they are then looking for things that will fix them, that make them feel better, make them feel awake, and all of that stuff, you know, like that. So, as I say, the physical discomfort or the mental or spiritual and emotional discomfort that you may experience during an attack, if it just does not feel right. So now we can also look at things that are unseen that can also come and attack us. If we are open to it coming to us, what I want to say about that is that those are the doozies that, or the wild cards that make us feel uncomfortable because we can't always see where it's coming from. It's like fighting in the dark. And so, ironically enough, the mainstream media movie industry has made quite a series of those type of entertainment that would present where the senses are deliberately blocked off so that they are unable to sense where the enemies are, which is what they're actually trying to explain to you. Is how people are constantly being, bombarded with material or frequencies on within your resonance of your existence. And so, if you understand who you are, if you're able to go within yourself and you're able to determine the actual attack that is taking place, the only thing that can really change the whole thing or give you uh, a stronger point forward is if you're able to um, create a frequency from within and around you so that you're able to counter it. I've got I've got lectures that I've been having with some of my members, um, where I've been teaching how to create a protective field around you. And we're still in the practice place to do that. And it's a safe space to do so. And so what I want to say is, you would never walk outside of your house with no clothes on. So why would you think that your spirit would not be needing any protection either? That is just the most logical thing to consider. So, how do you create or weave a field of protection or an armor around you during during life, in specifically now more than ever? Aside from doing the most obvious things, like for instance, eating clean, living in a clean lifestyle. Meaning, when I say clean, I'm saying when you eat things that are healthy for you, that work for you. um, it's not a matter of being a vegetarian or not a very vegetarian. It's got nothing to do with that, but eat healthy, um, think healthy thoughts, express healthy expressions of emotion. If you're angry, express the anger. Do things practically, um, do things that are uplifting for you within yourself. Contact yourself internally through love, care, nurture. And those are the things that are able to generate this vortex field, makes it stronger so that you're able to radiate a field of protection around you. Okay, now that's how you do it. If you have that around you, you're able to overcome attacks much easier. Now, what happens if you're in astral or in sleep or in dream world? How do you protect yourself then? What if you're being attacked in your dream? A friend of mine sent me a message and told me that he was attacked while he was asleep and he was dreaming, and he had an experience where he was left paralyzed and he couldn't do anything. That same sort of thing happened to me many years ago. And at the time, there was a very extreme drive to push, to expose a lot of super soldier information. And so all of those that had been involved in those places had become targeted individuals. And those people were attacked by sending out projections or contacting intradimensional elements or entities to actually do the bidding, do the attack on those individuals. Essentially, what had happened to me was the same thing. I was also rendered paralyzed with what happened to me. But what I realized was that my mind was actually very much active. So, despite the fact that my body was feeling paralyzed and that they were busy doing all kinds of experiments on me, and I'm not going to go into detail with that, I was able to uh, take control of my consciousness, which I don't think they expected. They expected me to surrender to being paralyzed and not do anything. And normally, when it happens, the first thing that takes place is you are shocked, and that shock, that's normally that's like someone giving you a punch in the face. I mean, it comes out of nowhere, so it was a blind punch, and the next minute you're on the floor or you're lying down and you can't get up. But pay attention. If you're paying attention to who you are, if you're paying attention to your consciousness, you're able to pay attention to the ability to counter it with your own consciousness. But then that depends on how much you've exercised your consciousness. Your consciousness, your spirit, your soul, all of that is based on practicing that as a muscle. So, if you are practicing that muscle, you'll develop it as well. Everything in your body can be developed in a certain way. I mean, people do exercises, physical exercises, not so. You read. I think the most overdeveloped muscle right now is the eye muscles, because of what's been going on in the world, where everything's being projected for people to look at and to listen to. So people have big eyes and big ears right now. But aside from that, what I wanted to say is I basically countered that attack from those individuals, those entities, with using my imagination, and I used fire, and I turned it into a sword, and I cut them up into pieces. It helped, because it never happened again. So the same thing can happen if you are able to, when you sleep, that you don't sleep so deeply that you are unable to not have control over yourself. Really, it's about developing the internal muscle of the consciousness in itself. So I just wanted to share this. I didn't want to talk for hours. I just wanted to share this on a much sort of broader perspective, that um, you are able to protect yourself. I have in my channel a video called Psychic Defense 101, which is very simple to do, and yet it's so much snubbed, but it's so powerful. So have a look at that video. It really is about using ice and fire to protect yourself. And essentially, that is how you are able to defend yourself. The rest is up to you. Develop your internal intentions, your ability to think. Just keep in mind that things around you in the material world is used to manipulate your spiritual connection to it. So it is important to be mindful of the focus of that ability to protect yourself through being aware that that which is around you is used. You can do the same though if you needed to, and you could literally manipulate the same thing. Just because they are attacking you doesn't mean that you can fight back, or doesn't mean that you can't, hit back, because I want you to hit them back. I don't want you to sit back and turn the other cheek and do this whole meek and mild, you know, I should turn the other cheek, and, it doesn't exist anymore. And it's high time that you should be able to learn to fight back. Except the problem is I want you to take your mind out of superhero Marvel comics, because that's just not how it's going to ever happen. It is about getting to learn who you are and what you can do. And you're able to change the weather if you really needed to. You're able to fight back if someone really went for you. Just the same way that you'll be able to protect yourself and defend yourself if something physically happens to you. You can do the same thing. So yeah, I didn't want to leave this to be a long video. I just wanted to share this information, and I thought I should do live stream, which is new. Anyway, thanks for those that came on in the live chat. I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting me. I am going to say goodbye. Thank you. Bye-bye.